Hello and welcome to AFSPA Live, our monthly digital broadcast designed to give AFSPA members and eligible federal employees a place to ask questions and get answers about past AFSPA Talks topics, their benefits, and wellness needs. You can ask your question through the chat box on whichever social media platform you're streaming AFSPA Live, YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn. If you're not able to join us live, call our toll-free line prior to the broadcast at 888-435-0757 and leave our team a voice message that we may play back and answer live on air. Just tell us who you are and the question you'd like us to answer. I'll see you at the next AFSPA Live.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to AFSPA Live, a live Q&A broadcast session that we host every last Thursday of the month at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. My name is Maddie Norton, and I'm the Communication Coordinator at AFSPA. I'll be moderating the show today. And today we are discussing the 2024 open season. And as always, we have AFSPA CEO Kyle Longton with us today. How are you doing, Kyle?
I'm doing all right. I'm excited. I think we've got certainly more questions in advance of today's show than we usually do. And I think we've already got a good number of people tuning in live and hopefully more joining us. So I'm very enthused about open season. We've had some webinars this week. Almost 200 people have attended those already. And we'll pull in more today and tomorrow, 5 a.m. tomorrow morning, Eastern Time, for anybody who wants to join us.
Yeah, if you're overseas, that could be a great time for you to join. That would not make it so early in the morning. Just for us Eastern Time folks, it'll be a little early, but definitely check those out. We have those going until the end of open season. Otherwise, we'll kind of jump in and go ahead and start reading the questions we've gotten. If you didn't know, we always send out a form beforehand. So if you can't make the show or you want your question answered live, that's where we're getting these questions from. So I'll start off with one from Ken. He asked, are there any plans for a foreign service benefit plan, high deductible health plan with associated health savings account?
Great question. And the answer to that is no. The only plan that AFSPA offers under the Foreign Service Benefit Plan is a high option plan. It is a fee-for-service high option plan. There are a limited number of high deductible health plans within the federal program overall, and those are typically paired with a health savings account. We don't offer that. We've gotten questions, but don't feel like that structure would benefit our members as much as the current structure that we have. But if you're interested in high deductible health plan, on opm.gov, you can find information about those plans, how they work within the federal program, a little bit different from how they work in the commercial setting. But right now, for us, it's just the FSBP high option plan. We also have the Medicare Advantage plan. Separate from that, I think we're going to talk about that more later, but no high deductible health plan.
All right. Next question we got from Arena. They asked, has anything changed that would allow for a naturopath to be a primary care provider? If so, where in the benefit plans is that information found?
Yeah, so the answer to that is no. Naturopathic services are actually a specific exclusion within the plan brochure. That exclusion continues in the 2025 benefits. So do you have a overview of what is considered a covered provider under the plan, but naturopathic is specifically excluded in the brochure.
Got it. We have our first live question. Sarah from YouTube has asked, do you still participate in Maven? And if so, can you give a brief overview?
The answer is yes. We launched Maven in January 2024. We're continuing that partnership next year. Maven is an online clinic specifically designed to meet the needs of women and families, but specifically for women and throughout all stages of life, whether it's pre-maternity planning, during maternity, early childhood and some pediatric support, and all the way even to perimenopause and menopause. And it's not just, we might think of some of the apps we have, it's just like a self-guided, you can get some articles, you can follow some modules they might have. Some of that exists within Maven, but this is actual care. You can engage with a provider through the Maven app in over 170 different countries. So this is actual care that's available for our members around the world. And I can't recommend it highly enough. I've heard from some members who truly love it. There's also great information if you're planning your family and are looking at adoption as an option. We of course don't cover adoption costs, but there can be some guidance available through that, and just support throughout. And there's also support for partners in there. So if one partner is pregnant and the other partner wants some support and wants to know how they can support the pregnant partner, that information is also available within their the Maven clinic. So excuse me, I would encourage people to check that out wherever you are in the world, see if it's the right fit for you when you need it. And we've just posted the link to that, mavenclinic.com/join/FSBP in the chat. So I encourage you to take a look at that. Go ahead and sign up. It is free to FSBP members.
Yes, and I promise we didn't set it up like this, but our next question kind of fits perfectly with that. Can you discuss what is covered under this plan for hormone replacement therapy for women, specifically women in perimenopause and menopause?
Sure, that's a great question, and I will say that I should have pulled this up ahead of time. I wanted to hormone replacement therapy is available. It does obviously have to be prescribed by a doctor. It likely will go through a prior authorization process, particularly when you're obtaining it in the US and it's going through our prescription benefit through Express Scripts. But that basically means that we want to make sure that members have access, that it is the right treatment at the right time, that we're not, there have been some limited cases in the past where people have sought human growth hormones and others at a time that's not covered by the plan. So talk to your doctor. The doctor can engage in that process with the plan to make sure that they have the coverage that they need and that the plan has the information we need to provide that coverage.
Absolutely. And next question we've got is Marco has asked, can you tell us more about the pilot program in Japan?
Yes, I'm going to tell you as much as I can. So many of you who are in Japan, or probably you're not watching, given the time difference, it's 1 a.m. And if so, thanks for going to sleep with us. But I will tell you that essentially 2 years ago, there was a big change in DoD policy in the way that civilian can access military treatment facilities on the military bases in Japan, and this had already changed in some other countries, but this was a big factor in Japan. People have been having trouble just getting access to doctors off base. That's a long time thing. So Department of Defense has actually been working for the last 2 years since announcing this change to come up with a solution. So they have paired with International SOS, and a contract between DoD and International SOS covers things like navigation services. You call, they'll tell you, look, we've got an in-network with International SOS provider here for what your need is. You need a cardiologist, endocrinologist. Here's one in your area. Go there. They'll call, make sure that the provider knows you're coming. This contract with DoD will also provide translation services, which is often required in Japan. The other side of that is that carriers, including AFSPA for Foreign Service Benefit Plan and others, are in the process of finalizing agreements with International SOS as well. I say in the process, this is supposed to launch on January 1. I feel confident it will. We're still ironing out some of the details, but essentially the enrollee, the active employee for DoD, this program does not necessarily cover dependents. That's why it's a pilot program. They're trying to show proof of the concept to make it work and possibly get better funding in years ahead, because this basically they had to collect funding from the agencies who have civilians in Japan to fund this pilot. So, but our members will be able to access this, get the navigation services. In some cases, this may involve International SOS being able to pay the provider at the time so that the member doesn't have to pay upfront and seek claim. But that's one of the pieces we're still ironing out, because right now, International SOS doesn't have the ability to for instance, collect the deductible or the co-insurance, and typically Japanese providers aren't set up for this as well. So it may be the case that International SOS can cover that up front, claim to the plan and we reimburse that way. But there may also still be situations where members will have to pay the provider and then submit a claim for that. So as soon as we have all the details ironed out, we will send out information to our members in Japan. We'll post it publicly, get the word out as widely as possible.
All right. I'm going to jump to a YouTube question. And we've gotten this question before. I know, Kyle, you've definitely seen it in the webinars. But Linda has asked, why should I keep AFSPA when I start Medicare? Does AFSPA provide a discount when it becomes a secondary plan?
Well, this is a great question, and it looks like, Linda, you're joining us through YouTube. So I would encourage you to take a look at our FEHB and Medicare Putting It Together video that was last updated back in March of this year, I think. That gives hasn't been updated with the 2025 details. We'll be doing that soon. But what I would say is that essentially if you have Medicare, first of all, enroll in Medicare Part A. Typically, you're not having to pay anything for it, and all it does is save you money. The question really is around Medicare Part B. And essentially, in a nutshell, if you have Medicare Part B and FSBP, you're basically 100% covered for your hospital with Part A, and then your medical costs, if you go to a provider who participates with Medicare, or official term is does not participate, that does not apply to opt-out physicians. So I'll put that aside, refer you again to the video. But that is it. No, we do not provide a discount to enrollees when they enroll in Medicare Part B. A discount is available if you opt into the Medicare Advantage plan, the FSBP Aetna Medicare Advantage plan. It's a $75 per month reduction in your Part B premiums, $900 in savings per calendar year. But that does involve going into the Medicare Advantage plan. So you can check out that video. There's contact information at the end of the video if you have further questions.
All right. And I know that we just got a live question from Don asking if he had submitted a question prior, would it be answered? And Don, yes, it is. I'll go ahead and ask your question now. Along the same lines, is there any advantage to choosing the AFSPA Medicare Advantage plan now instead of later, I'm assuming? And if he does, would he be able to stay with his current primary care provider network?
Sure. So what I will say is that I point to the biggest benefit that people seem to like about the Medicare Advantage plan, which is that you can get a $75 per month reduction on your Part B premiums. It also includes access to some additional programs like Silver Sneakers, like home delivery of meals after inpatient hospitalization, even non-emergency transportation to medical appointments. You also have, you would be enrolled in a Part D plan as part of that. That Part D plan within the Medicare Advantage is administered by CVS, but you have typically lower out-of-pocket costs, sometimes as low as $0 for generic medications. And there's also some additional features. I would refer you to the website FSBPhealth.com/retiree. That will give you more information about a side-by-side comparison of the plans. What I do want to note is that you're enrolling in a different plan. So it has different rules. It is approved by Medicare. It's been reviewed by OPM as well. But you, for instance, would not call AFSPA for your customer service. You go through an Aetna retiree team. You also, as I mentioned, will be enrolled in a Part D plan administered by CVS. So you might have to get some new prescriptions and things like that. And one big difference that has been a deal breaker for some people is that under the Medicare Advantage plan, massages are not covered unless they are deemed medically necessary, and the massage therapist participates in the plan. Regarding your primary care provider, this plan, the Medicare Advantage, is a national network, and we will provide coverage for any provider who either participates or does not participate, not opt-out providers in Medicare. And sometimes they'll say, no, we don't do Medicare Advantage. Contact our team. They can call the doctor and explain this is a different Medicare Advantage plan. This provides greater coverage, and they can explain sort of what that is.
All right. Moving on to a common question we get. How can I find the price or cost of my medication?
Oh, that's a great question. I think we even have some links that we can share. So if you're enrolled in the high option plan, you can just go to afspa.org/prescriptions, find the information there. You can also go directly to express-scripts with an S on the end.com/FSBP That'll give you the information on our high option plan. You can put in your medication name, the dosage, your zip code, and do a search that way. If you're considering the Medicare prescription drug plan, so the PDP or the EGWP, I have to say all of it now. We've got information about that at afspa.org/PDP, but start with the prescription page. There's more information there.
Yep. And on that webpage, you'll see a sidebar where it literally says price of medication. Click that button, takes you to the page that Kyle was talking about. Easiest way to do it. And we're having some people we're asking about the Medicare video we're talking about. If you're watching on YouTube, you go to our page. It's our most watched video, I'm pretty sure. And it's called Medicare and Medicare and the FEHB, putting it together. And I have included the link in the chat as well. So if you're looking for something to watch after this, you can go watch that. It's 48 minutes. Kyle goes into great detail, and you can learn a lot about the Medicare and how it works with us. I will jump to a question from Sarah in the live chat, and they have asked for the GLP-1s. If you are on medication now and coming to FSBP this year, will a PA still cover? So prior authorization.
Yeah, that's a good question. So that's going to depend a little bit on what plan you're coming from, which pharmacy benefit manager it was, but you essentially will be starting new coverage. So I feel safe encouraging you to be prepared that you may need to go through a new PA process, even if you're moving from another plan that has Express Scripts as the pharmacy benefit manager. You will need that. You likely will need to have a new PA submitted by your doctor for the coverage to continue. So I would say make sure you've got a supply before you make the switch, just in case that takes a little bit of time. I hope that answers your question.
All right. And moving to a question from Jenny C. She asked, if I don't have foreign service benefit plan when I leave service, will I be able to sign up for FSBP later on? And what does it mean to be vested?
I don't know the context about the question for being vested. That's typically language used around retirement plans and so forth. But what I can tell you is that, generally speaking, you have to have had FSBP while you're an active employee at some point. You don't have to have it the day you retire, but you have to have had it at some point while you were an active employee to be able to select it in retirement. Most people cannot select foreign service benefit plan for the first time in retirement. The exception there is people who are retiring under a foreign service retirement system. They can select it for the first time in retirement, but most people, DoD employees, civil service employees from state, DHS, intelligence community, et cetera, have to have had foreign service sometime while an active employee and able to select it in retirement.
All right. I'm seeing some messages from chat, and I know that we got a question similar from our forum asking about massages and chiropractic services. How does AFSPA process wellness receipts for those type of services, and how does that kind of work?
Okay, so I'm going to just caution that the wellness receipts and the context here, I'm assuming the person's asking about the alternative benefits for chiropractic services and massage services. Well, we might address wellness program later on, but here we're going to assume this was about the alternative benefits. And in that case, you go to the provider. For chiropractors in particular, if you go to an in-network provider, they'll bill us directly, and likely the negotiated rate we have with them is less than the $75 benefit we have per visit. That's fine. They're going to bill us. That's a separate arrangement. But if you go to somebody who's out of network, for chiropractic and massage, most massage therapists don't participate in insurance because most insurance doesn't cover massage. You'll pay the provider at the time of visit, and then you'll submit it to us. And I think there was a question, do massages have to be referred by a doctor? No. Under FSBP. Medicare Advantage plan, yes. But under under FSBP, our high option plan that 98% of our members are enrolled in, no, they don't have to be referred by a doctor. They don't have to be deemed medically necessary. You just go get a massage. And when you submit it to us, it needs to have the provider's information on there, their name, their address, and where applicable, and that's most places, their license number. or their tax ID number. Most of the time we'll get the license number. We need to have your name on there. We need to have the date of the service. The service is provided. So for instance, November 21st, 2024, 60-minute massage. How much that cost? $100. Submit that to us, and we can reimburse you $75 per visit, up to 50 visits per year. And that's 50 visits for massage, 50 visits for chiropractor, and if you'd like, 50 visits for acupuncture services as well. Each visit covered up to $75.
Absolutely. One of our favorite benefits from members, and one that you can use it just about every week of the year if you wanted to. Just take off Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then you're covered. I will jump to a question from the live audience. Someone said, if my spouse is my dependent but retires before I do, will he still be considered a dependent under the Foreign Service Benefit Plan, or would he be considered retired? And then I need to watch the retirement video.
Okay, so I think we're at the underlying question here may be about when one needs to make the decision about Medicare Part B. I'm going to assume that's the case. Viewer, please let us know if I'm missing that. But essentially, let's assume you're an active employee based on this. You would be, the coverage is under you, and your spouse is a dependent, and your spouse retires. They're still receiving their insurance through your active employment. That's what matters, is how the insurance is provided. And if you're an active employee, they're covered as your dependent. Your insurance is through active employment. So they can delay this decision on Part B until you retire or you stop receiving insurance through active employment. And at that point, it touches off a 8-month period of a special enrollment period, all covered in that Medicare video. So you can go ahead and watch that. Just be prepared. Come back to it anytime we update it annually.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing some questions in chat. We may have answered your question beforehand, so definitely watch the 20 minutes earlier after this goes live, after it's recorded and goes up on our Facebook page and our YouTube page, which is immediately after this is over. So I'm going to keep going with some of the questions we had submitted from our form. And someone has asked, can FSBP please offer reimbursement for personal trainer programs that help us stay fit?
No.
Right.
Next question. I'm kidding. No. I imagine you want an explanation as to why we can't. And the essential response there is that personal trainer programs, gym memberships, fitness classes are not considered covered medical benefits. They're yes, I agree with you that in many cases, regular exercise, and particularly somebody guiding us to what may be best for us, can absolutely be beneficial to our health. It just is not considered a health, a medical coverage. So it is not available. We cannot provide reimbursement for that, just as you can't get reimbursement for this through the flexible spending account program, FSA Feds. It's not something we can offer. The only thing we can offer, and this is our Medicare Advantage plan, which does include Silver Sneakers, which is a gym and fitness membership program for our for those who enroll in the Medicare Advantage plan.
All right. Next question. How do I add a family member to my current FSBP plan?
It's a great question. So if you're already enrolled in a family plan, so you're enrolled in 402, you got family coverage, and you get married, you have a child, you adopt a child, whatever the situation may be, as long as they're an eligible dependent, you can go to our website and on the contact page, and there's an option there to submit enrollment information updates. So if it's a marriage, we need a copy of the marriage certificate. That'll show the date. And if you have a child or adopt a child, we need either the birth certificate or the formalized adoption papers to show the date at which that occurred. Now, if you are switching from self-only to family enrollment, that has to go through your employing or retirement office. That has to be a qualifying life event. You've got certain windows within which you can make those changes, typically 31 days prior to the event and up to 60 days after the event occurs that changes your family makeup, that you can make those changes. So please, you can do a search for the SF, like standard form 2809. 2809. That lists all the possibilities for qualifying life events to make changes. It's 1C for active employees to take a look at those family member changes, and 2B for annuitants to take a look at the timeline for that and what you're allowed to do when you have a change in family composition.
All right. You kind of mentioned before about FSA feds, and I've seen some questions in the VBF chat as well as through webinars. So someone has asked, as a new enrollee, do we need to sign up for Fed benefits, vision and dental plan separately, or is it covered under the general Aetna plan, which I'm assuming they mean us?
I'm going to answer this question two ways. One, you don't need to sign up for vision and dental. That is a personal decision. However, if you decide that you would like to enroll in a Fed VIP dental plan and or a Fed VIP vision plan, you do that separately. That is done through the Benefeds website, benefeds.com. You'll have to register there. You can find all the information about the 23 different dental options and the 10 different vision plans that are available there. And those are managed separate from your health insurance. Your health plan likely does not, if it's a fee-for-service, particularly if it's FSBP, I can say this confidently, does not have routine vision benefits, and has a very, very limited routine dental benefits. In this case, I'm talking about like $36 twice a year for an exam and cleaning. So something to think about. I will also encourage you to consider FSA feds, particularly if you're just getting an eye exam once a year, new frames, teeth cleaned twice a year. May not make sense to pay for a dental or vision insurance plan. Maybe put some money into that FSA feds account to cover dental and vision needs, or it's right there in the name. There's flexibility. If you don't have those needs, you can use it on over-the-counter items or medical out-of-pocket costs as well.
Okay. Are you ready for some kind of rapid fire questions that we've gotten from a member?
Well, I think I've shown so far that you can ask them rapidly, but I might give a very long answer. So we'll see.
We had some questions from Marcella asking about specifically moving to Canada, but they said, I'm planning to retire in 5 years. How many years do I need to stay with the FSBP plan before retiring to ensure I can continue my health insurance with you after retirement?
Good question. So you must be enrolled in the FEHB program for 5 years immediately preceding retirement. However, you can change plans anytime you want. You must have FSBP at least some time while you're an active employee. Doesn't have to be for 5 years. You can enroll that open season before your retirement and carry us into retirement, but you must have had us sometime while an active employee.
All right. Next question. Does the Foreign Service Benefit Plan work in Canada if I stay there when I retire? Can I get the same medical care in Canada like I have in the US?
All right, so the first question is yes, FSBP works worldwide. It's global benefits, and all providers outside the United States are considered in-network. In terms of the same medical care in Canada like you have in the US, a lot of that depends on the Canadian medical system, which it is what it is. We can't control that, but yes, you have the same benefits that you have while you're overseas. We do actually have some limited direct billing relationships in Canada, particularly in the Toronto area. We're working on others over time, but those are limited. But you can go to any provider. Likely you'll pay out of pocket. We'll reimburse you at the in-network rate for claims that are approved.
All right. Next question from her. If I travel to Canada, will Foreign Service Benefit Plan cover my medical expenses if I get sick in the country, or do I need to purchase travel insurance?
Okay, so FSBP will cover you anywhere you are in the world. We will be the primary payer for claims outside the United States, even if for others who may be listening, you have Medicare at some point. We're primary payer for claims from outside the US. But we pay the benefits that are in the brochure. Travel insurance would provide some coverage. It would be secondary to FSBP in most cases, but travel insurance typically does have additional coverage, for instance, prescription replacement or even eyeglass replacement if you're overseas. Not to be grim, but a lot of travel insurance also provides repatriation of remains if something should happen while you're traveling overseas. So there are different benefits available under travel insurance that are not available under health insurance that you may wish to have access to. It's a happy note. I'm glad I could insert that in there.
Right. Thank you. Really boosted the mood. Next question was, how can I find more information about overseas care? And right, we have a great link for you. It is afspa.org/overseas. So go there and you can learn so much more about the overseas plan. Well, our plan is overseas. Just more details about how everything's covered. So definitely check that out.
We even have a handy dandy brochure specifically about overseas care. I was looking for a copy of it here on my desk, but I don't have one handy. But it's fantastic. You can download it as a PDF and just keep it on your phone to flip through if you want, or on your tablet, wherever.
Right. All right. So next question we got from Tim. He asked, will physical therapy be covered this year under general care?
I'm not sure what is meant under general care,
Right.
but physical therapy remains covered under Section 5A of the 2025 FSBP brochure. We're not making changes to the physical therapy benefits, so members still have coverage for up to 125 visits combined for physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. So any mixture of those, as long as their visits are medically necessary. And if you go to an in-network or overseas provider, we provide coverage at 90% after the calendar year deductible. If you go out of network, you've got the calendar year deductible there as well. And then we provide coverage at 70% of the plan allowance. So no changes to physical therapy benefits. I'll also note that we continue to offer for members in the U.S. a virtual exercise and physical therapy program in partnership with Hinge Health. And you can sign up for that. That's offered at no cost to members. And that's at hinge.health/FSBP. You can sign up there. It addresses chronic pain as well as acute needs. And again, at no cost to members. And we've had fantastic feedback from members about that program.
All right. Tim also asked, how do we submit an out-of-network claim for it to be covered?
Sure. So I will officially refer everybody to Section 7 of the FSBP brochure, which is how to submit a claim. And there's details there of exactly what's needed. My colleagues posted a very detailed overview of specific to massage and chiropractic, but the same information is needed for other claims. If you go out of network in the US, we need the itemized bill from the provider. We need the provider's name and tax identification number on there. We need the ICD-10, that's the diagnostic code. We need the services provided with the CPT codes, the date of service, the services provided, as I said, the cost of the service, and ideally a receipt showing that you have paid. We'll review that. If it's we may also request medical documentation to prove medical necessity of the services received. But you could, to more relevant point, you can submit that through the AFSPA member portal at myafspa.org. We've made some fantastic updates to this portal over the recent years, and now you can just use your phone, tablet, smart device, whatever, take a picture of the claim. We'll convert it to a PDF. You can still scan it, submit it as a PDF, but you can submit it that way. We have a little form we ask you to fill out that covers some of the details I just mentioned, but if it's a stateside provider, their bill must include all of that information, and that's CMS regulation, so they likely will be able to provide that to you, no problem.
All right. Live question we just got from Facebook. David asked, is it true that pregnancy coverage is fully covered?
It is. So maternity coverage is covered at 100%. I would say this should be the case with all federal plans, though I have found that is not necessarily the case. Not drawing a direct comparison here, if anybody from OPM is watching.
Right.
But yes, we cover maternity at 100%. This includes prenatal care, delivery, and what's known as bassinet care. So essentially, as long as the person delivering the baby is in the hospital and baby's there with them, for a standard amount of time, that's fine. If somebody needs to be admitted longer, that changes things. But we also cover postpartum care, and then once baby arrives, we cover wellness exams, child exams at 100%, including vaccinations, including the 3-day checkup, the 5-day checkup, the 1 week, the 2 week, the 1 month, the 2 months, the 3 months, the 5 months, etc. All of that covered at 100%. We want you to get the care that you need. We also have a healthy pregnancy program that is offered at no cost to our members. They can enroll, receive wellness incentives just for connecting with one of our nurses, calling, discussing their delivery plan, having a call post-delivery just to check in on, this is a big change, but check in postpartum. We also offer support, we mentioned earlier, through Maven. Maven Clinic, there's some great support options there for both pregnant people and their partners, not only during the pregnancy stage, but also in early childhood for help, pediatrics, sleep training, return to work coaching. There's so many great benefits through Maven. So I encourage everybody to take a look at that, even if it's just something you're planning right now or considering.
Absolutely. Maven is a great resource, and definitely check that out if you haven't already. Next, we're going to move to a question that we got with some recent news from AFSPA and Signa, especially. A member asked, I received notification that the Signa disability plans offered by AFSPA will no longer be available in 2025. Yeah. Can you provide more details?
Yep. And I'll tell you, I'm actually enrolled in this program and losing my coverage there as well come January 1. So we launched the Signa disability plans back in 2016. We were looking at various options to provide some coverage for our members, particularly with a focus on, this is prior to paid family leave being available for federal workers following birth or adoption of a child, to provide some sort of coverage in maternity. We launched a 30-day elimination plan. Later, we added a 90-day elimination plan. That all of that doesn't matter to the 200 people or so who are losing this coverage. Essentially, this has been under the Signa Global umbrella, but they have engaged another group that was providing the underwriting. So actually doing the work behind the scenes to figure out what the rate should be, to figure out what risk is being taken. And that group is no longer providing underwriting, I should say, for association plans that offer global coverage. And that's what we are. We're an association, not an employer in this case. And we are looking for plans that offer options for our members around the world, or who may come back to the States for a posting and then go back overseas. And we have spoken to brokers. We've checked half a dozen different underwriters to explore this possibility, and that some will write an association plan, but they won't provide global coverage. Some may look at global coverage, but not for association. So it's a hard fit. So yes, these plans are terminating at the end of this year. You've received the notification of that. We are not done looking. We're still exploring other options. We just do not have anything in place come January 1. And I am truly sorry for that. We've been working on this for a little over a month since we got the notification that this would not be happening. And it's not for lack of trying to find an alternative. So I do apologize to those members who are losing this coverage.
Absolutely. Never news anyone wants to receive, but it's nice to know that we are talking to members and letting them know. And we hear you guys, and even some of us are personally affected, like Kyle. We have another live question. Someone asked, do I need to have a medical diagnosis? As in, I would have to have been hospitalized to be able to get a blood pressure monitor covered by FSBP, or can I request one without a medical diagnosis?
So I'm not sure what you mean by request one, but for any durable medical equipment, you would need a prescription from a provider for coverage. And blood pressure cuffs may or may not be covered depending on the situation. I will mention that if you are someone who has a diagnosis of high blood pressure or even borderline high blood pressure, you may want to explore our program with Livongo, and which is now actually, they've retired that name. It's now covered by Teladoc Health, but we have a hypertension management program there, and you may be able to engage in that program. That program is free. It does provide you with a smart blood pressure cuff that you can link up via Bluetooth to connect to your device to keep track of that. So that might be something you want to explore. And that is my recommendation here. So for any durable medical equipment, and I'm not sure in this case if a blood pressure monitor would actually be covered as DME, but in any case, any durable medical equipment would require a provider's prescription for coverage.
Okay. Next question. We've gotten this asked before. The premium increase took quite a jump. I thought that, right. I thought the Medicare PDP was supposed to lower cost. Can you explain?
Yes, I can. And I can tell you that the Medicare PDP did save a lot of money. We saw a lot of people move into that plan, more stuck with it than I had anticipated. And the savings through the FSBP Express Scripts Medicare Prescription Drug Plan Employer Group Waiver Plan, that's the full name, PDP, EGWP. I'm going to use PDP for short. It saved money. There's incredible, and it's going to save even more money, not just for the plan, but also for individual enrollees next year. That said, we are facing some headwinds that even those savings for around 7,000 people could not counteract for the entire population of more than 100,000 members now. And so what we're looking at, and this is covered in the open season webinars, AFSPA.org/events. You can find the full schedule there. But basically inflation, just going to see a primary care provider, office visits, costs are up 11%. Specialist costs are up 8% after a 7% increase last year. One of the big factors, and this was asked about earlier, are GLP-1 drugs. These are drugs like Ozempic and Mounjaro for diabetes, and Wegovy and Zepbound for weight management. And these drugs are non-specialty, so members have access to them. $60 copay for a 3-month supply, but they cost somewhere north of $4,000 total cost. Now the plan has some discounts and some things like that we can apply, but the plan is taking on a lot of that cost, which is what insurance is for, right? Why are you have insurance if they're not going to pay for some things?
Right.
The challenge is that we've seen utilization of these drugs skyrocketing, particularly the weight loss drugs. I will say just in the first half of this year of 2024, FSBP, 10% of our prescription spend, 10% of every dollar that we spent on prescriptions was for GLP-1s.
Wow.
And that's up quite a bit from last year. Zepbound is our number 3 drug in the first half of this year. It didn't exist. It was not on the market until November, December of last year. We spent $1.3 million on just that one drug in the first half of this year. I haven't seen the third quarter results yet, but I imagine it's a lot more. So over right at $7 million for just the first half of the year, just for GLP-1s. That is a huge factor that is affecting the plans. And you'll see that is the case across all the FEHB plans. The average increase for FEHB plans is 13.5% this year. I'm delighted that we were able to keep the increase to 13%. I was getting recommendations from some others to push it higher. We were able to keep it at 13%. Not all fee-for-service plans were able to keep it at that. Some of the HMOs were below that, but this is sort of a record-setting year for the FEHB program overall, and FSBP was not immune to those market changes.
Absolutely. I hope that explains a little bit of why premiums have gone up. Thankfully, well, maybe not thankfully, it's happening to everyone, but we're all in it together,
Yep. And I will say also the OPM contribution, the government contribution to premiums went up a record amount to compensate for this as well. We usually see like a 4, maybe 6% was kind of a record increase in the government contribution. So right around 10% that the government contribution went up this year. So they're at least keeping pace with that.
Right. And that is good news. Another question we got was about can current annuitants who did not carry the plan into retirement, but who worked for the Department of State Civil Service, enroll in it during open season?
So if you had, and I'll repeat what I said earlier, if you had the plan at some point while you were an active employee, you may have only had us for a brief time, maybe a year or something, switch to another plan. But as long as you had us while you were an active employee, you can select us in retirement. If you did not have us while you were an active employee, unfortunately, civil service employees of the Department of State cannot select us for the first time in retirement.
All right. And we're rounding up some of our last couple of questions before we call it a day. So if you have any last minute questions you want answered, submit them in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to keep going with our submitted questions. William has asked, what must I do to not make any changes in my plan during open season?
You do nothing. Absolutely nothing. If you like the plan that you've got for FEHB and for the FedVIP program, you want to keep the same thing next year, you do nothing. You're Your plan will roll over. You'll have the same plan, the same enrollment type next year. The only one that you have to re-enroll in every single year if you want it is the FSA Feds program.
Yep. And we have a question from Jean asking, I live overseas. How do I get reimbursed for over-the-counter medicines?
Jean, that's a really good question. And I'm going to answer it to the best of my ability, but we'll welcome you to reach out to us for further guidance and maybe some specifics about the medication. I know your submission mentioned the diagnosis, but not the specific medication. Here's what I'll say. Generally speaking, over-the-counter medications are not covered. At least without a prescription, and even in some cases, if there is a prescription, they're still not covered. When you're overseas, it may be the case that there is a medication that is available over the counter overseas, but requires a prescription in the U.S. In that case, coverage may be available. I want to be clear about that. May be available, but we still would want to see I believe this is where I want you to follow up with us for the specifics, a doctor's prescription. So it's not just you saying, I want to take this drug, and then wanting reimbursement for it. We'd need to know that it was recommended by prescribed by your medical professional. Even if a prescription is not required, we may want to see that to provide reimbursement. So please follow up with us and with the specifics, and we can provide specific answers.
Absolutely. And last question we had submitted was, does FSBP cover silver sneakers?
The FSBP high option plan, the main plan that over 99% of members have, not covered. And this goes back to gym memberships, fitness classes, things like that, cannot be covered. We went through this in the last 10 years. I can't remember how recently, but with OPM, and they determined that if we were to offer it, because it's not a covered medical benefit, it would be considered sort of like a value added benefit, and we'd have to tax literally everybody enrolled in the plan on it because it would be an additional benefit that's not part of their health insurance. So, however, the FSBP Aetna Medicare Advantage plan is a fully insured plan that those who are enrolled in Medicare Part A and Part B, receiving their benefits through retirement, and resident in the U.S., they can opt into the FSBP Aetna Medicare Advantage plan. And that program does provide access to silver sneakers. It's part of the whole package. So you get silver sneakers, you get home visits, you get coverage for telehealth services, you even get a reduction in your Medicare Part B premium of $75 per month, $900 per year benefit. So if silver sneakers is very important to you, take a look at the Medicare Advantage plan that we offer in connection with Aetna. I'll put it out there again, FSBP Health, Foreign Service Benefit Plan, fsbphealth.com/retiree. You can find the full details there about that Medicare Advantage plan.
Absolutely. All right, last question from the chat. Are there any changes expected in 2025 for alternative medicine, specifically acupuncture?
No, we will continue to cover 50 visits per person covered under the Foreign Service Benefit Plan. Not the Medicare Advantage plan, different benefits there, but under the FSBP high option plan, members have coverage for up to 50 visits for acupuncture every year, also 50 massage therapy and 50 chiropractic visits every year. And the plan will provide coverage up to $75 per visit.
Absolutely. All right, everyone, get ready for the spiel of all the events we have. As you know, we are in an open season right now, and that'll last until Monday, December 9th, last through the holidays, Thanksgiving at least. And if you want to find out more information about our open season, please check out our open season webpage. That is where you will find all the brochures you can possibly need, what webinars we're having, what changes are being made in 2025. That's your go-to place if you want to see what events we're having. Don't you worry, AFSPA.org/events. That is where you can register for open season webinars. I believe either today or tomorrow is our last ones until the couple first days of December. So we'll be taking morning. Yep, exactly. Yep, 5 a.m. How could I forget? So we will be having those. So if you still have some last minute questions, please join those. Kyle is in every single one, answering questions. Yep, answering questions the entire time throughout. And so definitely if you have something specific or, just want to learn some more information, check those out. Those are super helpful. as well as if you're just looking for more information on a certain topic that we may have covered. This is like our 30th episode of AFSPA Live. So we have 30 other episodes of certain topics that we discuss every month, obviously, as well as our podcast episodes. Those are all on YouTube at AFSPA Cares. So definitely check those out. We go into detail about Medicare. We go into detail about our wellness programs, alternative benefits, things about that. You think it, we've probably done it. Otherwise, definitely use the YouTube as an information library, like resource, something great. And our next AFSPA Live will be right before Christmas. It'll be the 19th because that next Thursday is the day after Christmas. So we will not be having it then. So put it on your calendars, December 19th, 11 a.m. Eastern time. We'll be sending out the same form where you can submit your questions early. And otherwise, check us out on our social medias. If you are a part of the virtual benefits fair, we have the live chat going on today from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Register, go in there, talk to some of our people that are answering your questions. Otherwise, you know where to find us. And thank you for joining us today. Kyle, any last words?
No, this has been great. I will just say if you do end up emailing us or if you're trying to call us, we welcome that. Just please know this is our busiest time of year. So please be patient. We will get back to you. We've got our teams working overtime. We are taking off Thanksgiving and the day after Thanksgiving.
We are.
Our team has been working hard nonstop. But we look for, and we'll be closing early next Wednesday. We'll have a post on our website about that. But just please know we will get back to you as soon as we can. But in the meantime, thank you very much. Join those webinars. I'll be there, can answer your questions in real time. So you don't have to wait for somebody to respond to an email or stay on hold if you're calling us.
Absolutely. All right. Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Our broadcast. Join us again the last Thursday of every month at 11 a.m. Eastern. Also, don't forget to look for AFSPA Cares on all of our social media channels: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.